Behind every Hollywood legend lies a story not only of glamour, but also of difficult choices, missed opportunities, and moments of facing the changing tides of the film industry. The stars featured in today's video were once beloved by millions of viewers, creating memorable moments on screen. Yet their journeys also reveal that success always requires adaptation and the ability to look ahead. Join us as we explore these remarkable stories. Don't forget to leave a comment, hit like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to follow along with more memorable Hollywood journeys. There was a period in Hollywood history when George Raft was one of those faces audiences recognized the instant he appeared on screen. With his cool demeanor, sharp gaze, and image as a tough man, he became a familiar choice for dangerous roles, especially those involving the criminal underworld in Warner Brothers films during the early 1940s. At that time, Raft was not just a famous actor, but also the archetype that many studios wanted to build a star with unique charisma and the ability to project power just by his presence.
I thought and hoped you could assist me. The ornament is a bird. I am prepared to pay on behalf of the figure's rightful owner, the sun.
However, what has kept George Raft's name relevant years later stems not only from the movies he participated in, but also from the significant projects he once had the opportunity to choose from. At the peak of his career, Raft was considered for roles in films that would later become classics of American cinema, such as High Sierra, The Maltese Falcon, and Casablanca. At the time he made his decisions, his choices may have stemmed from his perception of the characters, his career direction, or production-related factors. But looking back from the perspective of film history, those roles became critical turning points, as they contributed to Humphrey Bogart becoming one of the greatest icons in Hollywood. The changing film industry also created new challenges for George Raft. Post-World War II Hollywood began to lean toward more complex characters and stories with greater psychological depth rather than focusing solely on the image of tough, mysterious men. The persona that helped Raft stand out in the early years of his career gradually ceased to hold the same central position. While some of his contemporaries sought to change their style and explore new types of roles, Raft struggled to find a path that aligned with the transformation of cinema. Looking back at George Raft's journey, his story is not simply about missed opportunities, but also a perspective on the harsh realities of Hollywood's golden age. An actor can reach the pinnacle thanks to a specific image, but to maintain that position over decades, they need the ability to adapt to changes in the audience and the industry. Although his later career did not remain center stage like his glorious years, George Raft remains an important figure in Hollywood history, representing an era where just a single demeanor or a gaze could create magnetism on the silver screen.
Them fighting word, partner. From the drugstore.
Oh, come now, son, don't do those things.
All right.
For many American viewers, Carl "Alfalfa" Switzer is an unforgettable face of childhood. With his signature curly hair, comical voice, and role as Alfalfa in the Our Gang series, Switzer became one of the most recognizable child actors on the American screen. As a child, he possessed a confidence and energy that made his character stand out. But like many other child stars in Hollywood history, Switzer's greatest challenge didn't come when he was famous, but when he had to figure out how to step out of the image that made him a household name. Hollywood at that time often created child stars by branding them with a very specific persona. This helped them become famous quickly, but it also made the path to adulthood more difficult. When Carl Switzer grew up, audiences no longer saw him as the boy Alfalfa he once was, while the film industry no longer offered him the same position as before. Instead of building a clear new direction, he struggled with the transition from a child star to an adult actor. Carl Switzer's story reflects a reality that occurred for many young actors in Hollywood. Childhood fame does not always guarantee long-term success. The initial spotlight can open many doors, but maintaining a career requires the ability to adapt, learn, and change over time. Although Switzer's later life was filled with turbulence, the image of Alfalfa continues to be remembered as a special part of American comedy history, linked to an era when short films for children captured the hearts of millions of viewers. What do you think made Carl Switzer's Alfalfa such an unforgettable memory for audiences, even though his later life was filled with ups and downs? Please share your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to support these emotional stories about famous figures from the past. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next videos, where we will explore more memorable journeys behind the Hollywood spotlight. Before the name Johnny Weissmuller was synonymous with the image of Tarzan in the jungle, he was already one of the most famous athletes in the world. In the 1920s, Weissmuller became an icon of swimming with impressive Olympic achievements, building an image as an athlete with superior strength, speed, and physique. It was these very qualities that caught Hollywood's attention at a time when studios were searching for faces that could represent the archetype of a hero on the big screen. When MGM cast Johnny Weissmuller as Tarzan in the 1930s, that decision quickly became one of the studio's most successful choices. He not only brought to life an image of a powerful, wild, and charismatic character, but also helped Tarzan become one of the most famous cinematic icons in the world. With his ideal physique, ability to perform action scenes, and a special presence before the camera, Weissmuller seemed born to play the hero of the jungle.
Clark Gable at the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and they wouldn't let me in. So some kid came up making a test for Tarzan. Go back and make a test, and they let you in the studio. So I went.
However, the very magnitude of Tarzan's success also created a significant challenge in his career. When an actor is tied for too long to such an iconic figure, audiences often find it hard to see them in other roles. For Weissmuller, his name became nearly synonymous with Tarzan. The films he participated in afterward continued to exploit his physical strength, action, and image-based appeal, rather than expanding into characters with psychological depth or entirely different genres.
Hi, Johnny. How are you, Jack? Fine, thank you. Johnny, since you've played the role...
As Hollywood entered new phases, audience demands gradually shifted. The film industry began to focus more on complex stories, characters with internal depth, and diverse acting range. In that context, the advantages that once helped Weissmuller become a top star were no longer enough to guarantee a long-term position as before. After many years tied to the role that made his name, he struggled to find a new direction beyond the image of the jungle hero. Looking back at Johnny Weissmuller's journey, his story is not just about an actor struggling after his peak. It is also a story about the power of a cultural icon. A single role can propel someone to the pinnacle of fame, becoming a memory for millions of viewers, but sometimes it also casts a shadow too large to step out of. Even though his later film career did not achieve the same influence as his Tarzan era, Johnny Weissmuller will always be remembered as one of the most classic faces to ever embody this character. In the late 1940s, John Agar entered Hollywood on a different path compared to many young actors of his time. He did not spend years playing bit parts before getting noticed. Instead, he quickly became a focal point of attention when he married Shirley Temple, one of the biggest stars in American film history. This marriage brought Agar closer to the Hollywood spotlight and helped him gain the attention of major studios. With an appearance suited to the leading man archetype of that era, he was quickly given opportunities that many other actors had to spend years to achieve. One of the critical turning points in John Agar's career was his appearance in the film Fort Apache by director John Ford, alongside two giants, John Wayne and Henry Fonda. This was a remarkable opportunity, as Agar was placed alongside highly experienced actors in an important work of that era's Hollywood. For an actor new to the industry, participating in such major projects was a sign that the studio saw potential in him. However, a film career is not determined solely by an initial opportunity. Standing among a generation of actors with years of experience, Agar faced the pressure of proving he could survive based on his own acting ability rather than just his personal fame. Hollywood is a competitive industry where external image can help open the first door, but maintaining a position over the long term requires continuous development of skills and the ability to adapt. Over time, changes in his personal life, along with differing assessments of his work style, affected Agar's position in the film industry. After his marriage to Shirley Temple ended, he no longer received the special attention he had at the beginning. Although he continued to be active in the film industry, particularly in science fiction films and lower-budget works, his career path shifted in a direction different from initial expectations. John Agar's story reflects a familiar aspect of Hollywood history. Sometimes a person can receive a huge opportunity due to unique circumstances, but the journey to maintain fame is an entirely different challenge. His career shows that initial light may open doors, but to stand firm in the entertainment industry, an artist must constantly develop themselves and prove their own value beyond external factors. Although he did not become one of Hollywood's top stars as many once expected, John Agar remains a memorable face of classic American cinema. In 1945, Tom Neal appeared in the film Detour, a low-budget work that would later be highly acclaimed in the Hollywood film noir genre. In the role of a man swept into a series of uncontrollable events, Neal delivered a performance that impressed both audiences and critics. At that time, he possessed the elements Hollywood was always looking for: a screen-ready appearance, confidence, and the ability to take on characters with complex inner lives. But Tom Neal's career path did not develop in the direction many expected. Unlike actors who built their success through professional relationships and stability in the industry, Neal was often mentioned for his strong personality and behavior that sometimes hindered his own journey. Conflicts off-screen, including an incident involving actor Francho Tone, significantly affected his image in Hollywood. This event caused Neal's career opportunities to become more limited in an industry that places great value on reputation. After no longer holding a position in mainstream film, Tom Neal left the Hollywood Center and took on various jobs outside the film industry. His story is not just about an actor who lost his opportunities, but also an example of how raw talent needs to be combined with stability and the ability to maintain a professional image. Although his career did not reach the heights many had predicted, his role in Detour helped Tom Neal hold a unique place in the history of film noir, as a testament that sometimes a memorable work can outlive the turbulence in an artist's life. In the early 1930s, as Hollywood entered a period of robust growth with the arrival of sound films, Wallace Beery was one of the most prominent names on the American screen. In an era when major studios were searching for faces that could attract audiences to theaters, Beery possessed a very distinct image. He was not the typical dashing leading man, but rather a man with a tough appearance, a distinctive voice, and a highly character-driven acting style. It was precisely that difference that helped him become one of MGM's biggest stars, even ranking among the highest-paid actors in Hollywood at that time. Wallace Beery's strength lay in his ability to create characters that resonated with the public. He often played men who appeared tough on the outside, but held warmth, kindness, or unpredictable emotions on the inside. Audiences loved that contrast, and MGM quickly realized that this image was the key factor to his appeal. Instead of constantly changing his style, the studio built Beery around the roles he had already proven could attract viewers. In the system of Hollywood's golden age, this was a very common practice, turning an actor into an icon based on the traits that audiences already loved.
Only yesterday about a man who ate spare ribs and sauerkraut.
Why? What happened?
Ptomaine poison. Oh, don't.
However, the very success based on a familiar archetype also created certain limitations. As the film industry gradually changed, audiences began to care more about characters with psychological depth and more complex stories. The formulas that once helped Beery succeed no longer held the same influence as before. While many other actors sought to expand their acting range, Beery remained largely tied to the image that made his name. Looking back at Wallace Beery's career, the notable thing is not that he had limitations, but how Hollywood operated at the time. The studio system had the power to turn a unique style into a brand, helping an actor reach the pinnacle of fame. But when the market changed, even the biggest stars had to face the challenge of adaptation. Wallace Beery remains one of the important faces of the early sound era of Hollywood, and his story reflects the constant change of the film industry. Victor McLaglen was one of the actors with the most unique journeys in Hollywood's golden age. Before becoming a familiar face on screen, he had a past linked to sports and activities that demanded physical strength. With his striking height, powerful demeanor, and formidable look, McLaglen quickly fit roles that required a strong presence on screen. Hollywood at that time loved such characters, those who could project a sense of power just by their gaze and posture. The major turning point in his career came in 1935, when McLaglen won the Oscar for Best Actor for his role in Informer. This success elevated his name to a special position in the film industry. However, behind that highly acclaimed performance was a very characteristic way of working between him and director John Ford. Ford understood McLaglen's strengths clearly: his naturalness, physical charisma, and ability to convey strong emotions through external expressions. Thus, rather than requiring him to be an actor who analyzed complex psychology, Ford typically built characters that suited his unique style. After that success, McLaglen continued to appear in many notable films, especially works featuring John Wayne. He often played characters with distinct personalities, sometimes humorous, sometimes hot-tempered, but always leaving a unique mark. However, his career also demonstrates a reality Hollywood once placed great emphasis on: image construction. An actor can maintain their position for years if they find the type of character that fits them perfectly. Victor McLaglen's story is not just about acting ability. It also reflects how stars of the old era were shaped by directors, studios, and audience tastes. He did not necessarily need to become an entirely different kind of actor to succeed, because his own unique style helped him make his mark. Even as the era of cinema changed later on, Victor McLaglen's name remains remembered as an important part of classic Hollywood. Behind every Hollywood legend is a story with many thought-provoking perspectives. In your opinion, what helped Victor McLaglen hold a special place in the hearts of audiences across generations? Please share your thoughts in the comments section to join everyone in discussing the unforgettable marks of classic cinema. If you want to continue seeing interesting stories about stars of the past, please support the channel by hitting like, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you don't miss our next videos. Before appearing on the silver screen, Buster Crabbe was already a prominent name in the world of sports. He was a successful swimmer, possessing the ideal physical foundation for the action roles that Hollywood highly favored in the 1930s. When studios searched for faces that could become symbols of strength, courage, and a spirit of adventure, Crabbe quickly became a suitable choice. His name was linked to three famous characters: Tarzan, Flash Gordon, and Buck Rogers. These are all significant figures in the history of early adventure and science fiction films. With his ability to perform action scenes, his suitable appearance, and a powerful presence before the camera, Crabbe became one of the quintessential faces of the film genre aimed at young audiences. His films were not just entertainment, they also contributed to shaping how audiences of that era envisioned heroes on screen.
Erasmus Rockwell Pennington. You must know the worst. Look at him. Pop, Earp. Sister Carolyn, Earp.
However, Buster Crabbe's career was also tied to a period when the film industry changed very rapidly. Serial films shown in theaters were once very popular, but the emergence of television changed public entertainment habits. As audiences began to seek new stories and characters with more depth, stars tied to the simple action film genre faced many difficulties in making the transition. For Crabbe, the greatest challenge was not that he lacked a mark, but that the mark was too tightly tied to a specific era. The qualities that once helped him stand out, such as physical fitness, appearance, and the ability to execute action sequences, were no longer enough to guarantee a position in a changing Hollywood. Even so, Buster Crabbe's legacy remains noteworthy. He was one of those who laid the foundation for the image of the science fiction hero on screen, paving the way for many later characters. In the history of Hollywood comedy, Margaret Dumont was a nearly one-of-a-kind case. She was not the type of actor who made audiences laugh with quick actions or direct comedic lines. On the contrary, Dumont's appeal came from her seriousness, elegance, and the appearance of an upper-class woman. It was precisely that calmness that created a perfect contrast to the chaos that the Marx Brothers brought to their films. In famous works like Duck Soup, Dumont often played the woman swept into absurd situations created by Groucho Marx. The interesting thing is that she didn't try to compete with the fast, high-energy comedic style of her co-stars. Instead, she maintained the dignity of her character, creating the feeling that she was the only person in the room, still trying to maintain seriousness. This very contrast became an essential part of the Marx Brothers' comedy formula. Over time, Margaret Dumont became a unique icon of classic comedy films. What makes audiences remember her is not her funniest lines, but how she became the balancing point amidst the madness of the characters around her. She represented a type of comedy based on contrast, someone who always maintained politeness in a world that was completely out of control. Margaret Dumont's story shows that artistic success sometimes comes from very different things. She didn't need to change to fit in with the famous comedians beside her. Her unique style, seriousness, and distinct image made her an indispensable part of American comedy history. Although her career was not like that of box office leading stars, Margaret Dumont still left a special mark that many generations of later audiences continue to remember. When looking back at the chapters of the lives of classic Hollywood stars, we realize that film history is not made only by moments of triumph, but also by the choices, challenges, and changes that each artist experienced. Some are remembered for a legendary role, others for an opportunity that changed their entire career, and some for the way they left a unique mark on the hearts of the audience. These stories remind us that behind every icon is a real person with a very unique journey. Which story do you think is the most memorable? Please share in the comments section. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to continue following fascinating stories about Hollywood.